Testing. Oh my God, this is really happening. This is really happening. Hi, Chani. Hi, Jen. Hi everyone. Are y'all completely geeked out that we get to spend time together? I'm Adrienne. This is Chani, just in case anyone's like, So before we start, I just want to offer some praise to Chani. And I want to say, it feels like forever now, that I've been turning to you for guidance in a way that I used to read Rob Bresney back in the day, and I still, check in on him. But I feel like there was a period where I needed a more advanced astrology, and I needed something that spoke directly to what I was doing as someone who's trying to change the world as a movement person. And I feel like right when it was getting desperate, I was like, I really need help. You just showed up and kind of creeped into my life as I got you every week, I got you every moon, I've got you. So I just want to thank you for whatever helped you to get on this path and show up. And I just want to say, regularly in my conversation, someone will say, I don't know what to do about love. And, I'll be like, have you taken Chani's course, Calling in the Love You Need? Because that's how I got there. Into my magic, I'm like, well, you can awaken your witch with Chani Nichols. Right? I had to tell you this. I had a moment where someone came up and I thought Chani was black, and now I don't know. And I was like, race is a construct. I was like, whatever you need to talk about, Chani is here for us, and I just will ride or die for you. And I just want to thank you how you ride or die for us. And so many times when it feels like stuff is happening in the world and just not the right thing to say, you show up and you're like, 45 is going down, the stars say so, or whatever. I was like, yeah, thank you. We can all drink. So I wanted to start with all that, just praise loving on you, and just offer, before we start, and no matter what else gets said, I wanted you to look at and just notice all these people that just adore you as well, and take that in.
Thank you.
And then I want to ask you, how you found the path. How did you make your way to us? Because we are all, so happy you're here. How'd you find us? How'd you find this path?
I found, to mirror that praise back, there's so many times when I just feel dead inside, and I don't know what to say, and I don't know how to frame things, and I don't know where it can go, and I can get on YouTube, pull up one of your videos, and listen, or open up your book, Emerging Strategies, and just pull something from it and feel alive again. It is, the way I got here is because of all of the activists and all of the artists and all of the strategists and all of the emerging lovers of life. We're constantly cheering each other on and helping each other remember that there's something else besides all of the onslaught of problems that we seem to be facing. And so there's nothing without each other, and I hear that from you constantly.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, so it's when there was yeah.
So our microphones are gonna have little moments, but we're asking if all of y'all generate energy into the microphone. I think that would help. I think if you're all just
it's a day of experimentation.
When it goes out, can you still hear us in the back?
Yeah. Great. As you being a Virgo, I can say that right now.
As you know, everyone. No, so the things that we can share. I told Chani, because she was she has my chart, she was can I put it up? I was like, not the whole thing, because I'm still trying to understand it.
Yeah.
But you can know that I'm a Virgo with a Scorpio moon and Aries rising. Because the Scorpio moon, y'all. That shit is such a blessing, and I just don't need to miss it. So yeah. Okay, so.
I love the resonance with, who else would write something about what is emerging and what is becoming, but someone that understands the mutable nature of life. And then also to write a book from this perspective of the generativeness of nature itself. Virgo understands that everything is always changing and that there is an innate wisdom inherent in nature, in the living world. It's always finding its own solutions. Nothing is wasted. It's always coming back in and going back out.
Exactly.
That's
what I think. That
like an embodiment of the Virgo energy, and then the Scorpio being the composting of it. Like, how do we take what's poisonous and horrible and compost it and create something eventually that's going to be generative? By going through the process of what it is to go through and sit through that discomfort and that unease and that unknowing of what we're going to or what we're becoming. Exactly. That is what Scorpio's like, yeah, I'm here, let's do it.
And also grief and death and all that stuff. I mean, I feel like so much of what you say to me every week is like, all this stuff, this just is, and you don't have to be beholden to it, you're not a victim of it. This just is, and then you can affirm what you long for and what you really want to generate forward. And I feel like that to me is like, oh, that's what we're trying to do. Like, I think as humans, it's like, how do we figure out, we pick our energy up off of like what is, suffering is, that's what's going to be, but like we can still put our attention on the miracle. So, since we're in the miracle territory already, 3 seconds in.
The miracle of the new mic.
So, you know, a lot of this conversation is around faith, and one of the things I wanted to ask you is like, how did you learn to have faith in the stars? Like, how did you learn that? And how did you surrender?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because it's just the work now that it just is what it is, but I think for a long time I was like, there'd be moments where I was like, am I completely untethered from an important reality to connect to by the fact that I'm talking about this shit? Like, what? Who cares if Saturn's there and it's doing the thing? And like, that sounds very far-fetched, Chani. You know, and so there would be these moments of like, what is why? But I've talked about this before, so forgive me, but you know, when I don't do the work, I dream, it comes to me in dreams, and it's not very nice if I'm not, planets aren't really like fun to hang out with. They're like they're archetypal energies, right? So archetypal energies are terrifying to our little ego self. And so when I wasn't doing the work and I was really resisting it and like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna be? How do I fit into the world? The dreams would come and they'd like...
Can you share like what one's like?
What one is like?
Yeah, like what one of those dreams is like.
Yeah, so one dream I had after going to this big astrology conference, it's kind of like Hogwarts, it happens. It's like the Olympics of astrology conferences. It happens like every 4 years. It's called UAC, United Astrology Conference. Anyways, I went there, and it was the first time I saw like it was possible to be a professional astrologer. Like people had careers and stuff, and so I was introduced to this whole world, and I was like, oh, there's this deep like academic lineage to this. Like people really spend their lives learning about it, and there's a deep history to it and all that. Even though I had been studying it for a long time, but just in a vacuum. So anyways, I got back from that conference, and I would wake up every morning, and there would be just this loud, booming voice, like, go look at this. And then I'd pull it up, and it would be somewhere really significant. And the most startling one was there's a god of healing, Asclepius, in the Greco-Roman pantheon. And so Asclepius is like one of the great healers, teachers of healing. And has to do with dreams. So there's a lot of those like dream caves where people would go and see the medicine person and maybe take a little snake venom or something, and go to sleep, have a dream, and then there would be something medicinal in that dream. Little snake venom for Scorpio.
I do something similar like that.
And so I woke up one morning with this like booming voice, like, look up Asclepius in your chart, and it was exactly conjunct my sun. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So as soon as I started writing and really dedicating myself, those things stopped.
It stops.
Yeah.
And then because you're like, I'm on the path, I'm pursuing the medicine the way I'm supposed to.
Yeah, like what else do you guys want from me?
Well, and I think something beautiful, like part of having faith is understanding that like everyone does have some calling, maybe multiple callings, but there's something you're actually supposed to be doing here, and until you do it, everything is harder.
Yeah, it's like discordant.
Like sleep is harder, eating is harder, water, staying hydrated. Like I just find like, oh, when I'm in the right work, it's like so much else gets easier, you know? So a question I have for you about your process, your writing process. You're so prolific. I mean, like the nature of what you're doing, there's so much writing that's happening each week, and then on top of that, you're doing these courses. And I mean, I have taken some of these courses, and I'm like, I'm tired here. We're only on high school, and I'm like, it's so much information. And it never feels repetitive, it doesn't feel like, girl, like I'm just like, how did you find a whole nother piece of information, right? And so I was like, it's so good, but it also really, it's like, it feels very, it's like you're channeling something, but it feels very emotionally grounded too, right? Very emotionally grounded. So then my question to you was like, what is the process for that? Like, are there weeks where you're like, these horoscopes? Or is it, like, are you very rigorous with like, here's my schedule for this writing each day? Like, what's the process by which you do this?
I mean, in my head, I'm really rigorous. And then sometimes it takes me like, an entire day and I've only written 3 horoscopes and I feel like a total failure and like, why do I do what I do? It's like I feel like I exhaust the content a lot. I feel like, why else would anybody ever need me to say anything ever again? Like, I should just stop and let somebody else do. It's like, there's times where I'm like, I don't know if this is sustainable. I don't know if it is, but there's a thing that happens with me, with everybody here. I'm sure there's something that we do that helps us work out the thing, like the machinations of my heart, soul, mind. And so when the writing's really hard, it's because I'm working through something really hard in myself. And so everything you've ever read is just like me trying to talk to myself, be like, it's okay. Get through this. It's okay. It's fine. Framed in something else. But
I love that. I tell people all the time, like, I write what I need to read. I say that all the time. People are like, how'd you know? And I was like, because I was crying and I needed someone to say something encouraging and not hateful. So then I moved that and made it a little better. But I'm like, but yours is like pages and pages of that. And, and
I need a lot.
So, when I first started reading horoscopes, I was like, okay, I can imagine how I would do this, which would be, I just have friends who are each of these signs, and I just like, I know what you need to do. So, judgmental, right? So, I mean, one of the ways that I work through that is by being a facilitator, because as a facilitator, you can be judgmental and be paid for that. It's like, no, that's not good. But, I feel like for yours, it's like you're trying to make something like an Aries that's going to work for Aries and Aries rising. It's just like, it doesn't seem like you're just like, here's the person I know, let me tell them about themselves. Like, it's really like,
I can't say that never happened.
That's, okay, I hope that happens. Sometimes I was like, did you ever just read someone, you're like,
if I'm mad at someone, I have to make sure that I'm really level with that sign for the week. Because also, like, people will read into stuff, right? Like, my friends and, like, people, in the community, they'll be like, strangers feel attacked, but my friends feel awesome.
If it's your friend, I feel like I get friends who tell me that sometimes. They're like, so that whole thing was that?
Yeah,
like,
that was
if it was you, I'll tell you. But process-wise, is it like, in a week, you're like, I'm writing every single day, I'm generating content, like, I really am like nitty-gritty.
Yeah, so I try to do that every day, and then some days I will spend 2 hours looking at pictures of Rihanna.
Thank you, that's important. That's so important.
And then Beyonce, and then I'm screwed. But but I'm also like trying to take in. I don't know if this is healthy. And I've been really listening to you online lately. I try to take in what's going on in the world because I want to see the connection, and I want to figure out like, is there something I can say about it? But it's obviously at such an extensive degree at this moment that I feel destroyed by 10 o'clock in the morning. And maybe I put out like an Instagram post and I've spent all my energy on that because I'm trying to. So I've been reading, and I'm like, I think I really need to reframe. I think I need to not do that anymore. I think I need to change up how I'm doing this and put in a lot more instead of like taking in whatever's there and then trying to put something out, because it's scrambling.
Well, and also, it feels like because there's so much incoming, there could be a temptation to match that outcoming. Like, oh, so much is coming in, I've got to say something about every single thing. Like, I was telling people this week, like I told you, I went to the Obama Summit this week, and I got to sit at President Obama's table, and it was this
the most charismatic Leo ever.
I know, and he swept me off my feet. I was like, you're not gonna sweep me off my feet. I know who you are, like I know who you are. I'm good. He sat at the table and he was like, Adrian, Detroit, or distract. He didn't even say anything. I was like, oh, you're good. And I felt hopeful, like really hopeful. Like I was just like, it's gonna be okay. I was like, this guy's got a gift. So, but the reason I bring any of that up, why did I even bring that up? Oh, well, I brought it up because it was like, there's this, these moments in history, or these moments where it's like, oh, everything is shit right now, everything is horrible right now, and what am I supposed to generate in response to that? Mm-hmm. And understand, like, I can't generate something corrective necessarily in response to that. And, so much of what I feel like politicians or healers or other folks, this is what we're expected to be doing right now, is like, let me fix this. Right. And I feel like somehow you're able to strike the balance of being like, I'm not gonna fix this, I'm gonna shed some light. And like in this light shedding, I'm gonna shed some light on what's possible here. Mm-hmm. But it's deep to hear you say that you're also get impact and hurt, that it's hurting you. Because I'm like, I feel you're so good at transmuting it into medicine that I forget that I'm like, oh, you're transmuting it into medicine, which means you're also taking it in. What are your grounding and healing practices personally, if you don't mind sharing some of those?
Yeah, I spent so much of my life at 14 years, I had a step-grandmother who was a Reiki master, and I met her when I was 11, and like this thing, like when I had my first astrology reading at 12, and I met her, she was the one who gave it to me, so I like had this huge awakening, yeah, actually my very first astrology reading, I was at 8, and she didn't really give me a reading, and I was in a very precarious, not good situation, and I was really little, but the woman looked at my chart, and she looked at me and she was like, oh, you're really judgmental. And I was like, yes, I am. Thank you for seeing that. I have judgment, and none of these people around me have judgment.
Yes,
but I do. Judgment. I had no idea even what it meant, but the tone with which she delivered it, I was like, yeah. So, so there's, like, I spent so long trying to, just try to come out of such a, place of hurt and pain. I had Reiki from a young age, and I just studied under that grandmother figure from the age of 14 to 27 or something, or 30. I did workshops with her, and I watched Oprah, everybody at 4 o'clock every day.
Listen, she carried me. We owe a lot to Oprah.
Yeah, my mom watched Oprah on behalf of our whole family too. Like when I went off to school and I was no longer coming home after school, she would call me and be like,
honey, Oprah said it's time for us to replace our pillows. Honey, Oprah thinks the power. And it was just but thinking about someone like Oprah now. Well, actually, there's some people that I have been thinking about, and that I'm like, Oprah as a whole, I feel like we could do a whole conversation just on or Brene Brown.
Yeah.
There's these people right now that I'm like, who is this person? Yeah. What are they up to? But there's a few people that I was geeked out to ask you about, and have you do some chart work and see what we can learn about these people. So who have shaped my life and who I think are shaping everything that's happening right now. Yeah. So one of them is Octavia Butler.
One of them is Octavia.
Right? One of them is Ava Duvernay.
Yes.
And one of them is Lee Boggs.
Yeah. We don't have Grace's time.
We don't have her time.
So I have her at Aries rising, but that's not necessarily. I have her at midnight, which is
Aries rising does feel right for her though.
Right.
Okay.
I have her, and the rest of it does too. I have her at the beginning of that day, just to make sure that
Yeah.
the moon was in the right thing.
Awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, just to round that out, so I grew up doing a lot of that stuff. So I had a lot of it like in my, and then really like my wife gives me just, I mean, she's everything. So
Everyone needs a wife. It's
yeah, I
difficult to
mean,
realize.
however that works for whoever. Like, you know, I come down and I'm like, the world is, and she like strokes my hand and like pets my head and like, you know, she just is there for me all the time, and I've never had that before.
Yeah.
And it is just a lifesaver. So there's nothing that gets done without me being loved by her.
Oh my God. Wait, so, okay. All right, because that's just so good, and you know that's like my favorite content in the world. It's like, so love is basically, love is, because you're basically then like the fifth element, right? It's like love is like what activates your capacity, right?
Yeah, when we met, it was like, you know, it was like exploded. And the work exploded.
So can I ask you a question,
exploded.
because I'm actually struggling with this?
Yeah.
So when you fell in love with this person, and you're an astrologer, and you have this whole thing that you can reference and be like, here's our charts.
Yeah.
How do you not go overboard on charting everything? You just are like, I'm not going to chart you, and I'm not going to.
I met her, like when I met her, she like gave me her chart info and she wanted a reading, and then I was like, no, I can't give you a reading. So
Because I want to
went-
sleep with you? Like, was that the thing? Is that the line?
I can't, this is not.
That's so great. You're like, actually, I don't think I should do that. Let's go to
I
dinner.
sent her to my teacher. I was like,
that's
I'm
good.
reading from the elder. Yeah.
That's
So,
great.
but I glanced at her chart and I was like, oh, you're just like this.
Oh,
Like,
we're good.
You're just fantastic, so everybody loves you. So,
Oh.
yeah.
That's great. And so in fights, you're never like, this is your Jupiter, or whatever. Like, you're just like, hey, this is, I don't know why this is happening.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, is there somewhere the spectrum of like not like it's in your head as a background voice?
she's also she's disgustingly intelligent. Like, she absorbs everything, like, within moments. It's really a problem. She's an Aquarius, so she's just there, right?
That's a good
So
pair.
I met her, and she learned astrology in 6 weeks on the internet.
So that's hot. That's hot. That's hot. I'm like into you.
No way! Well, I spent 20 years doing it. So,
But she's not competing with you.
no, but she's like, well, she'll tell me things. She's always cute. She's adorable, and she's loving, and she's solid, and she's so pragmatic and practical and down to earth, and her work is incredible. And we fight sometimes, but we don't really struggle a lot with a lot of stuff between us. We'll just end up crying within like 20 minutes and processing something and then
This is
moving on.
us. Yeah. This is us relationship. So,
I don't know that show, but I understand.
It's basically a show that you watch if you're like, I just need to cry.
Okay.
I'm gonna go watch this show.
Yeah.
That's basically the whole show.
Yeah.
When people ask me like, what's the plot? I'm like, crying. But it's good. It's brilliantly done. So
We're also really big into therapy. Like, I go to therapy all the time.
Yeah.
She goes, like, that if I need someone to have a container for me to then just like
That's
energetically, emotionally, and intellectually vomit every week.
Yeah.
And whether or not my therapist says anything that I need to, it's just the process of doing that is so important for me personally.
For you to be held, because you're holding so many people and so many stories also been all there.
Just me is enough.
But no, I mean, I just want to say this because we're working as a channel, right? Like, you know, every time you put something out, there's all kinds of energy that's flowing back towards you, right? There's so much energy flowing back towards you. People like, you know, engaging in what you have offered, wanting more of what you're offering, you know, and
or
also
needing to.
Needing
someone
process
to
and
push back.
understand, or just need someone to be like, fuck you, you can't tell me that this is the way you get, blah, 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 whatever, right? So just, it does feel like it's so important to create that space that's just like, this space is just for Chani.
Yeah,
That's,
I guess,
that's
if I don't
what
have that. That's where we'll, if I'm like, I don't have therapy this week, she'll be like, oh my gosh.
Oh, Jesus.
Why?
All right, so tell us a little bit about these stars in our constellation.
Okay, so we got Octavia's chart.
Look how beautiful her chart is. So do folks in here know basically who Octavia is? Should we say a little brief? Is there anyone who's like, who is this person?
Well, please
No
give us.
shame. Or I'll just say it briefly, okay? I know, because I'm like, everyone's in here like, I'm the one who's not geeking out. Belonging is important, and part of the way you get belonging is by saying, like, I need to know that so I can belong, right? So, belonging to Octavia Butler fan club initiated like this. She was a Black science fiction writer. She wrote 12 novels and a collection of short stories. And the work that she did, almost all of her stories have a Black female protagonist, usually very young, and usually they are a channel of something. So they're a channel of some new form of leadership, some new way of being in the world, some new way of understanding the world. And Octavia herself was born to a mother who had had 4 miscarriages of male children, and then Octavia was the one who was able to come through.
Thank you.
Yes, and that always feels, Ayana Jameson, who runs the Octavia Butler Legacy Network, taught me that. It always feels important because when you see Octavia, if you've ever seen her speak or if you watch her interviews, Octavia was this very tall, big, awkward Black woman with an underbite and a deep voice that feels like it comes directly from the ocean, and just an incredible human being. But I think there was so much gender fluidity, sexuality fluidity, everything in her. And then she was someone who really just carved out, like, I'm not the person who people are going to look at and be like, I'm imagining the future. And she was just like, fuck you. Yes, I am. And she just she was a very persistent, habitual writer. She teaches us, like, it's not just about the natural talent you have. It's not just about, let's go. But almost all the work that I've done is directly, like, she's the direct lineage of the work. So emergent strategy is basically looking at what her leaders were doing and trying to figure out, like, what are ways we can understand that. So that's Octavia. I always tell people, read everything she wrote. It'll improve your life. No matter what you do with it, it'll improve your life. Okay, so then,
So, oh goodness, it won't stay. It keeps going through, cycling through. One of the more important things to note is the fact that she has Cancer rising. And also Cancer sun. And so, that was for you.
Sit over there like,
That was for you.
just let it come through. Just let it come through.
Yeah. So there's the Cancer holds the origins. It's the water that we're from. It's the water in the womb. It's the place of birth, becoming, parenting, nurturing, caring for. And Octavia is born at that 0 degree point of Cancer, which is when the season changes. And that she is born at summer, like within minutes of summer. And so there's this incredible power of change that is added to her sun, because anybody who's born at 0 degrees of Aries or Cancer or Libra or Capricorn has that thing. There is something coming, and I'm here to change the thing.
And her whole work is all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God has changed. Like, constant change is the thread of all of Octavia's work. Yeah, and I was born that way.
Yes, and not only that, so she's at that Cancerian thing that says she's here to birth something, to bring something into creation, to care for it, and to create something that's going to nourish and be nurturing, and it's all that, the life-giving kind of energy. And one of the more important things of understanding our rising sign, to remember that sun sign astrology is like 80 years old. Astrology in general is like 4,000 years old. So this whole thing about being fixated on our sun sign is like a grain of sand in a beach kind of thing. It's like, okay.
Is that like an American thing?
It's like a spiritualist movement thing, but American and British, white.
Yeah. I was like, did white people do that?
They even ruined astrology.
Like, Chani, did white people? They just made it more, just like narrowing it down, categorizing.
There was a person named Alan Leo.
Oh!
we boiled it down. But anyway, so Octavia has the Cancer rising also, Cancer sun and Cancer rising. And so when you have whatever your sign your rising is, the planet that rules that sign becomes an incredibly important planet in your chart because it dictates the direction that your life is going to go. And we remember that astrology traditionally for thousands of years was about understanding the quality of somebody's life, not the nature of somebody's psyche or psychology. That's also new. That's Jungian additional new stuff within the last 100 years. So the quality of somebody's life, it tells us, well, where are they going? What's driving them? What do they need to be able to do? And so when someone has a Cancer rising, their moon becomes everything. Their moon becomes the planet that's going to tell us what direction does this person need to go. So so she's got that 0 degrees Cancer sun, so it's this really strong sun, and it's incredibly sensitive, sensitizing, nourishing, birthing, all that stuff. And then she's got her moon in Leo, which is about self-expressing, which is about bringing through that spirit of whatever it is we're here to channel in a way that is so creative that it holds our imagination, and that Leo energy wants to act out for us the possibilities of the being. And that Leo moon is in her second house of how she makes money, how she supports herself, her livelihood. Yes. And so and she's born at, at the beginning, she's born at like this new moon phase, right? Same moon, I think. New moon, and there's some moon, just at that crescent. And then also, one of the interesting things is she's got an exact sextile with Uranus. And I was thinking a lot about Uranus because Uranus is the planet of change and upheaval and breaking through something. So it's very startling kind of energy because it smashes whatever we've known. But it also innovates, right? So it brings through something. And so her moon is in this exact sextile to Uranus, which is saying, change.
That's amazing.
I know, and it's sextile, so it's positive, it's easier.
Yeah.
And so the moon's like, oh, let me talk about this thing that's about change, and this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to support myself.
Yeah.
This is how, and it's also with Saturn and Pluto, so that's some very deep, transformational, intense energy. But the reason why I was happy you gave me that piece of information about her mom is that her moon is at an exact square. It's actually... It's like her moon's moving into this square, which is damaging to Mars. There, and so I was like, what happened? Moon is also body and how we live, unpack our purpose. So it's like what we do in a daily, ritualistic kind of way to like live out our life purpose. And it can also be about the body of the person that birthed us. And the body of the person that birthed, it's a lineage kind of planets and access into that. And so it's an exact square it's an applying square to Mars, which means that there could be some sort of, Mars is a harmful kind of planet, it's edgy, it pokes and it
Mars is so powerful. Mars is here for the fight.
But so if her parent had that much problems in the birthing process, and if she was some sort of kind of miracle or some sort of
I think she
gift, then her chart says something about that. There's something about the body and something about her birth.
Makes a lot of sense.
Also, Neptune trines her sun, which is that wild imagination. Like wanting to see and explore other ways of knowing.
That is so exciting. Is anything about her isolation, like the sort of social, she had a very strong hermit nature, like a nature of I turn inwards, I turn to my solitude and to process and create.
So I think Cancer in general needs that. There's got to be that protective shell for those kind of softer concerns. But also she's got a couple of important things in the 12th house, which is very destructive, creative, renewing energy, that Uranus and Venus.
So just for time's sake, I'm going to move us, maybe we can go to Grace next. Is that possible? Or should we do Ava? Let's do Ava next. Ava's next.
Well, we thought Ava was interesting because Ava's making...
I'm just geeked out because Ava's making Octavia's Dawn into a series. And also, I mean, so Ava's like shaping so much of Black excellence right now, and really raising the bar and the standard and making it like, oh, we can do anything we want to do. But then it just got announced that in addition to everything else she's doing, this is slated. And many of us have been waiting for a long time, for Octavia to really properly be turned into television or turned into film, and feeling like the person doesn't exist or it's not right yet. Like, we don't want it to be in the wrong hands. We want it to be in the hands of someone who's really gonna love her. And so here we have Ava as the person who shows up.
Yeah. So what's interesting about Octavia's chart?
It's gonna come back. She's like standing up.
What's interesting about Octavia's chart is that, so we were talking about faith and belief, and the planet of faith and belief is Jupiter in this paradigm. And so right now Jupiter just moved into Scorpio in October, right in alignment with all of these stories hitting public consciousness and discourse and media in a way that it's not like they haven't surfaced before, but it's something's taken, right? It's like all of a sudden all of these stories about sexual abuse and the abuses that go on within the power dynamics, especially in Hollywood, are just like having this moment, and all of a sudden everyone's like, where were you? What's going on? Who's the thing? And so it's this extraordinary like magnification of that. And so Jupiter just entered Scorpio, and Scorpio is about regeneration and all of that stuff, but it's also about, again, taking the poisons out. And so Jupiter magnifies whatever it touches. And so the moment that it went in, it was just like everything started, all of these stories started to become very overwhelming, and the Me Too movement resurfaced again in a really powerful way. And it was started 10 years ago, which is quite, Toronto
Berg started it 10 years ago, 2004. And before this, like, the way that the internet works now, like, it's so interesting to be like, oh yeah, like when you did it, like the way it's happening now, it's like we weren't even in this place, in this way of practicing social media.
Right.
So it's so fascinating now to have it come back around. But I'm also excited because also I don't think what happened around Toronto this time could have happened before, which is like, it came around, and instead of her being invisibilized, there were just so many people who were like, no, it was Toronto Berg. You need to know her name. You need to like make sure she's going to get supported. And so it's just exciting to be like, messes can go faster, but also corrections can happen much more quickly, and like getting the attention redirected can happen much more quickly, which I keep thinking we forget.
Yes. And so I don't know exactly when everything happened to her and made her come up with that whole the Me Too thing, but it's a 10-year framework, and Jupiter works in 12-year cycles.
Ooh.
So the cycle of it seems quite close. I don't know if it's exact, but there's something in it that's close in terms of the cycle of it coming back. And what I was excited about was when I looked at Octavia's chart. I can't click back to it, right? Is it? It's possessed.
Octavia. Oh my God, Octavia. Here we go.
This is Scorpio, and that's Jupiter. And so Octavia's chart is having a Jupiter return. As Ava is unpacking her work and preparing to make it into something that it's never been before.
Holy shit, and next year's gonna be Octavia's 12th year of being an ancestor. Also. Yeah.
Wow. And next year will be Ava Duvernay's Jupiter return. Bodies of knowledge and faith and wisdom, then the unpacking of Octavia's wisdom and knowledge and body of work is being done by Ava right now, who's obviously going through quite a big moment. So there's other stuff that's happening in the chart, but that their Jupiters aren't connected by sign, but they're connected by cycle. And so I didn't know about this a couple of months ago. I was talking about Ava's chart in a course, and because she's doing a wrinkle in time, I thought how extraordinary, because she's got the moon in Pisces, and Pisces is a very creative, very wants to like go beyond the bounds of what we know. And I said somewhere, I was like, I hope that she keeps doing fantasy or science fiction or something that she...
You said that in the moon course.
Yeah, because she's got a full moon, right? So her job here is to completely open and unpack and explore this incredible imagination in the third house of goddess, wisdom, ritual, all that kind of stuff. And so we thought it was, when we were talking about charts, we thought it was quite something. And also, Ava has Mercury in Cancer, or sorry, Venus in Cancer.
Yeah.
And also the part of fortune in Cancer. And if we were to look at Octavia's chart, we would see that Ava's part of fortune, which is a combination of the sun and moon and ascendant, the three places of life in the chart. Those are the most important places for us to have an understanding of. And fortune, the part of fortune, it's an Arabic part, so there's many, many peoples that contributed their wisdom and knowledge and time and effort and centuries to this system that we call Western astrology.
Yes.
And so the parts were kept intact for a long time by the Islamic nation, when things were taken, when the Hellenistic era was taken over and began the Islamic era, they kind of traded information. Anyways, they took it for a long time, they held it for a long time, and when they conquered Spain, they had lots of information and stuff there, and then when Spain was reconquered, it got unpacked and pulled apart. But
Astrology's really been through it, huh?
the part there talks about our fortune, our physical, monetary fortune in some way. And so there's this connection between Ava's part of fortune and her Venus, her planet of being in contact and connection, with Octavia's Venus. Our first house is us, it's our life force. And so Ava's chart is contacting that in a dramatic way, and also their nodes too. Anyway,
So we want to make sure we leave a little time for Q&A. So in like 3 to 4 minutes, can you tell us a little bit about Grace Lee Boggs' chart, and then we'll make sure we give Q&A time.
Yeah, so can we?
Yes.
So Ava's born at a full moon. So again, that's about something in the life being brought to fullness. And Grace is also born at a full moon.
Really?
Yeah. So you see her son? So also Grace Lee Boggs had, all this stuff. She was born
Oh my gosh.
at 4 degrees of Cancer, her son, and her moon was in Capricorn. So she was an exact. Yeah. Yeah. And so again, there's this incredible desire and need to bring something about that's going to be nourishing and about home.
Yeah.
Right. So Cancer is the home or the place where we go to get the nourishment. And so because she was somebody that was so connected to the place that she ran. Detroit.
Yes.
And the way in which she established her work within community and within staying in this place and loving it and nourishing it and knowing what was possible to build through it. And that's kind of like Cancerian. And then her full moon in Capricorn. You said stubborn.
I mean, it's something that I have observed.
Right. So Capricorn wants to have the rules and the order and the structure.
Standards.
Yeah, standards.
Yeah. And I mean, so Grace is like she just passed away 2 years ago at the age of 100 years and 100 days. And transform yourself to transform the world. Like she was constantly holding us all to this very high standard, but very rigorous, very rigorous. And I think that
she has had Sun conjunct Saturn. And so Saturn is that planet of structure and order, discipline.
Yeah. And
so this chart would need that.
Yeah.
To feel safe.
That's great.
Anyway.
I think she felt pretty safe by the end.
Yeah.
So we have about 12 minutes, and we wanted to really protect some Q&A time. And so I think one of the best ways we could do that is actually the microphone. Are we going to do it with microphones? We don't really need to. We're going to try. So what I'd love to do is gather like three questions for Chani, and raise your hand if you have one. Y'all decide between the two of you which one of you is going to ask. You're going to do one. Sorry, just to be fair, one over here, and then. Oh no, you both get to go. All right. So you go first. Oh no, you got the microphone. You go first. You got the microphone.
Well, we have a videographer, so despite the discrepancy in frequency.
We're not gonna make you like stand up and do the whole thing. You look gorgeous. What's your question?
I was talking to you last night on Instagram. Oprah Gucci is out inside. What's up? I'm currently studying tarot, astrology, healing. My grandfather ran tea leaves. He was a Sagittarius too. I never got to meet him. I actually just came from the crystal store and got candles and stuff. I'm coming straight from the trap house. How do you? Because I feel like us, being young black and brown people, we trying to really put our young black and brown people onto astrology because I feel like a lot of us are being destroyed by capitalism and by all these really weird standards. And I'm reading the Celestine Prophecy right now, and I'm reading The Alchemist with my students, and I'm trying to teach them about them knowing the beyonds of themselves and trusting that, like the idea of having faith. But because a lot of us had from generational trauma and abuse with Christianity and the secular system and church and state, we don't know how to trust our higher selves, our Auries, our Orishas. They don't know how to trust that voice. Like, so how do you, as the generational gaps, I believe that we are all very young in spirit, but like we do have a lot of wisdom, you know what I'm saying? And my mom is still trying to get into astrology now. So like, how do we bring that gap? Like, how do we make young people interested in our livelihoods, basically, like in knowing that we're not gonna die? Like, because a lot of us are scared of dying and have a lot of nihilistic ways of being, and it's like, how do we know that we're continuing without being stuck to the body? Like,
Thank you.
thanks.
And we're gonna get these two, and then we'll kind of answer. So, who's going first? We're gonna just get these 3 questions and then do some answering, and then if we have more time, we'll do more questions. Just trust me, it'll work.
Just a small question. I am also a Sag. Jupiter just went into my 12th house. I thought I was really gonna love it, and it is really tough. And I was just kind of wondering, how do you navigate Jupiter in the 12th house? My Jupiter is also Libra as well.
You're Sag rising.
I am Libra rising.
So I see it differently, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, got it.
So bringing people in, Jupiter in 12th house, and then.
Hi. I just want to thank you first for doing what you do. You sort of got me into astrology, and what really
Wait, how many people in here is that true for? How many people are like, Chani is the way? You are the light and the way.
And for me, I really connected to the fact that you connect astrology not only to myself, but to like broader political and social movements, especially feminism. So I wanted to ask you about the chart of the United States and whether or not we're going through a Pluto return right now and what that might mean for our society.
Very small question.
So this is good because you went so hard because earlier when we were prepping for this, I was like, what about the chart for like Black Lives Matter or the chart for like the movement for Black Lives or something? And I was like, it's 4 years old. Can you tell us about that? And you're like, no, let's just go bigger. I just really like that. So you got the 3,
Yeah.
Yeah, just rip away.
I'm still meditating on what you asked, and it's such a mystery, like what works for each individual, I think is so important to acknowledge. Like, is there a dream that one, of the people that you're working with or beside or your friend has? Is there something? I am here because there were people in my life that confirmed myself to me. And there were confirmations that I got from the world that I was whatever, good, valuable, whatever, but I didn't believe any of those, and so I really needed those people. The figure in my life that was my step grandmother, and also other people that she brought into my life who believed in the possibility of healing. So up until that moment, I hadn't ever met anybody who had dealt with themselves and their own pain and their own trauma, or they were trying to, that they were actively working on that and dedicating their lives to doing that with other people. And once I met her, a voice inside of me woke up and said, follow her. Like, whatever she does, just do it. Just be around her. And so there was an energetic awakening in me that was beyond my reasoning. Again, it's that voice that came from me. I'm auditory in that way. But I think that this is not, there's no way for me to answer that question because it's such a big one. But I think for me, it's always been so important to have those human-to-human connections, and that everything that you do, every single piece of healing, every single thing you gift yourself, everything that you learn and integrate gets put into your body, your energy, your spirit, your soul. And every time you connect with somebody who has forgotten that part of themselves or maybe was never introduced to it, there is a possibility that something will transfer from you to them. And that is the miracle that we're hoping for. And that is the same thing that we have to do with our families. For those family members that are lost, that can't come with us, that won't heal, can't heal, don't know how, all that stuff. We can love them completely and not be around their messiness and foolish behavior because it hurts us, but we can go and, in their honor, live our lives in a healing way. And maybe at some point, they will catch a glimpse of something that resonates with them, and they'll think, maybe there's another way. And that's all I ever am aiming for, is that moment of like, maybe there's something else. And maybe I too can have that, or I could get there, and maybe I could be worth that kind of effort. Because we want to know that we're worth that effort. We're worth somebody reaching out to us and saying, you deserve to heal. You deserve a space where you get to do that. You deserve that kind of justice. You deserve that kind of opportunity. And so the it's so big. It's so massive, and we can't hold the whole thing on our own. But we have that piece. We have a piece of it, and I think that we can try to give that in some small way to others. Is that?
Yeah, I think that does, because you can't heal people. Like, you can't heal people. Like, now it's like, I think a young person, empath, like a lot of young people know the word empath now. And I feel like a lot of us use that as an excuse to be sadomasochists. And like, we take that time to give ourselves and then we lose ourselves.
Yes.
We lose that Ace of Cups energy, we lose that ability to look out for our Empress energy. And like, when you're stuck in that limbo of like, when am I giving myself too much? When am I taking it away? And it becomes a sliding scale. And it's not like that equilibrium. I'm a Libra, so I need that balance. So it's like, how do I keep my balance, my Taurus rising energy, that comfort, that balance, but then also my Sagittarius 9th house energy. I want to help people. I want to teach how to help people. I want people to know through rap, through music, because we're artists. So it's like, how do we do that without feeling like it's being pushed? Like we've all been pushed to believe in Christianity or pushed to believe in certain things, capitalism, systems. Like how do we keep it from becoming structure like on its own naturally, like a flower, like letting it grow naturally, like it being GMO, or I'm feeding it to you.
You are like a profit channel. What's your name?
Dad's barber, everyone.
Okay. I mean, just because I know we only have like 3 minutes left, I'm just sort of like, next Chicago Humanities Festival, can we just have a conversation with Jasmine Barber? No, I see you. Like, you have it coming through you, but I just also want to make sure we only have a couple minutes left, I want to make sure these other two get touched on. So, but, like, can we have you forever, okay? You, okay? Okay. All right, and then, so, how do you deal with Jupiter in your 12th house, and what the hell with the US chart went?
So with every transit, it's important not to simplify it down to one thing, because you could have something else going on that's way more impactful than that one thing. So I want to just frame it in that, because I can't see your chart. I can't
You
comment.
can't just look at us and tell.
Trying to see it. So I want to say that, but the Jupiter, the 12th house is a place where we hold our sorrow and our loss. and our grief and our pain. And so when Jupiter goes in there, it goes, hey, it's okay to look at this. And in Scorpio, it's like, really deeply.
Very deeply.
So there's a back room situation happening where it's like, what do we really have faith in? Jupiter brings us our faith, or is the symbol of it, or where we would go for it. And when it goes through the 12th house, it's in light of all of this tragedy, in light of all of this loss. All of this is real. And also, where is it that we might find meaning? What might we be able to feel given all of this? But there's no not accepting of all of this. So Pluto's a planet of the underworld.
Pluto's a planet!
Pluto's a planet!
You cannot take Pluto from me. I will not give it up. So Pluto's a
Pluto
planet.
will take you.
Pluto is taking me. You saw where Pluto is in my shit. I'm just like, Pluto, get out of there. Yeah.
And the U.S. has Pluto in Capricorn, and Pluto is in Capricorn right now. It's not going to get to that point exactly. There's been some major stuff that happened earlier with the chart. But basically, a lot of people go back to the fact that it's having its Pluto return. And because its Pluto is in Capricorn, which is about capitalism and systems,
No shade, Capricorns. It's
No,
okay.
yeah.
You two can be friends. You're sitting there like, oh no!
Right, so Grace Lee Boggs had a moon in Capricorn, so obviously
Exactly,
she did
see?
well with it. But it's about, so Pluto and Capricorn's about the transformation of the systems that we live within, and because Capricorn's an earth sign, it's about how we utilize our resources, and because that and Uranus is moving into Taurus, another earth sign, and Capricorn's moving into Capricorn, another earth sign, there's going to be a huge shift. You'll hear all the astrologers talking about it, but it's all going to be about resources and what we do on a very physical, real level with the resources that we have. And so, in very short, the United States is having a major life crisis.
Yeah, it's the fall. I think it's the fall of capitalism.
Yeah.
I think we should just say that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, so I just want to say, wow, I mean, you are such a profound being, like so much profound, it feels like you're able to very easily access profound things, like they come through you easily, and I just want to thank you for the work you've done in your life to make that channel open and clear. Thank you. We've reached the end of our time here. So I wanted to give everyone a chance to just, in whatever way you want to extend a little energy of grace and gratitude towards Chani for ways that she's touched your life, you can do that now as loud and
Any-
whatever way that you want to do.